understanding the basic psychology of the dog you have in your house is quite important. When he's doing that, just let him process. Like when he's doing that reaction, just leave him. Because if every time you're telling him off, he's just disengaging, so he's not learning. Say when he does this reaction, like we'll just stand still, so you don't do anything, and just let him do what he wants, but I'm not gonna move. Okay? Because every time like we're putting leash tension on him, that could disrupt the learning process. So that reaction is him going like, well, I've done this reaction to get an outcome previously, which might be the person to move away. So he's like growling at me to get me to move away or get you to move him away, which would actually reinforce the behavior. Yeah. So we're gonna say like, well, you can do that behavior, but nothing actually changes in the environment. So you could be uncertain, but like, and you can growl, this person's not gonna come closer and he's not gonna move away. So the dog's like, why am I growling? And then once the dog stops growling, I'll move away. So now he's gone, oh, the behavior's shut off. I'm not doing anything and the thing I'm uncertain of has moved away. So why am I actually doing this behavior? There's no, like for the dog, there become no reason anymore. So I'm gonna walk towards him, say the behavior turns on, I'll just stop and we just don't say anything. The behavior turns off, we might have a 5 to 10 second period where the behavior has to turn off and then I walk away. So now he's learning that his behavior doesn't get an outcome. Seems to be noise. Yeah, if you were to like tell him off for this, it would just get worse and worse and worse. What will happen is it won't necessarily reinforce it. What will happen is it'll like stop the dog from showing warning signs. So you're putting the warning signs on punishment. So you're punishing the dog for expressing the fact he's uncomfortable. And then what happens is the dog becomes more unpredictable because it goes, oh, like I can't actually show that I'm uncomfortable. And then, so then when I actually get too uncomfortable, I lash out because I can't show any warning. Does that make sense? See, like now we're leaving him, he's escalating. And we want him to kind of go through this and just be like, oh, like nothing's actually happening. It's like a phobia, right? Like, it's like, imagine if someone was scared of spiders, right? And say like, you were scared of spiders and I had a spider in a jar. And I was like, you started like panicking. Like you were like, oh, like I'm freaking out. And then I was like, shut up. And like gave you a clip, right? Like you'd be like, oh, you'd probably become scared of me. You wouldn't trust me. And you'd also maybe become more scared of the spider. Whereas if we were like to you, like, hey, there's a spider in the jar. Like, it's okay. You can make your own decisions, you can like leave if you need to, but we're gonna come back and tackle this, like we are gonna solve this. Like you'd be like, okay, cool, we're gonna overcome this, but like, I don't have an option, I have to overcome this, but I have options within that. So in this case, we're saying you're gonna overcome this fear, but you have choices. So we're not gonna force you to do anything, and we're not gonna like tell you off or anything, we're just gonna let you process, but we are gonna set up the environment so that you can actually like overcome this. Whereas if say he was nervous like that and someone came towards him and was like, oh, nice dog, and like put their hand out, that would be like throwing 10 spiders on you when you had a phobia of the spider. you'd just panic again and probably either try run away or try like get them off you, attack the spiders. So just create some space, and then like you might even go as far as like that, maybe even a little bit further, and just let him observe the person. Just be like, okay, cool, you can observe. He might bark, do whatever, just leave him like this. Just don't do anything and just let him process. Because if we say pat him and tried to make him feel better, that would potentially reinforce the reaction. Whereas the popping will just punish it, so like we add an aversive in place, it just shuts off the response, but the feelings are still there. And so now see how I'm coming a little bit closer? He's now offering like more desirable behaviors. So now you could reinforce him. So you could give him a pat. And then I'll move away. And that's also reinforcing him. So that would be negative reinforcement, me taking myself away, taking something away that the dog doesn't like, or something the dog wants to get rid of, taking it away at the right time reinforces that the calm behavior. So if I left when he was barking at me, it would reinforce the barking. Since I left when he sat and became calm, and you reinforced him and I left, he got reinforced by you and me. And so now I'll come forward again, we'll just leave him. So see how the reaction's reducing on its own now? Yeah. So now he's thinking, we're not actually having to do as much, we're making the dog work. So he's going, oh, my behavior is shaped by the environment around me, and you're just like a platform for him to like work from. I'll wait for him to calm again. See, he's looking at you for a little bit more guidance now. He's like, oh, what do I do? Which is good. And then I'll leave again, and we'll just do a few reps of this. Closer with no reaction. See the sniffing? That's him processing. So that's him like, who is this? Whereas when he's doing that bark and he's reactive like that, there's no learning occurring anymore. Well, he's not, all he's learning is there's no learning in terms of him overcoming his fear, it's just him learning whether or not that reaction actually works or not. This is where he actually overcomes the fear. Like he's in a processing state now. When he's reactive, it's all we can really work on is the reaction, but the fear of the person isn't actually going away at that point. It would be like if someone was panicking about the spider, they're not learning about the spider, they're just panicking. But then the second that panic stops and they go to a state where they can actually process, that's actually where they would figure out what the spider was. But in that panicking state, we couldn't be like, the spider's okay. Like they'd just be like, oh, yeah. Just making yourself smaller makes you less threatening. So he's more inclined to like come up to me. So if he comes up to me on his own, just give him like, hold the leash, but give him more leash so he has the chance to explore if he wants to. If he sits and calms, give him 5 seconds, then reinforce him with a pat, and then I'll leave. Give him 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Reinforce, and then I'll leave. And I'm gonna leave for like 30 seconds just to take some pressure away from him, give him time to process, and then we'll come and do it again. That period, that little gap between him sitting and is quite important, having at least 5 to 10 second gap, just so he doesn't, we just want to be real careful with positive reinforcement. We could unintentionally reinforce the wrong behavior. So that gap just separates it. It would be like if, say, like a human had a reaction at somebody and swore at them, and then someone praised them straight after that. They could think it was the reaction that got them that praise, but by having like a gap between it, it just means, oh, I'm clear what behavior was wanted from me. Now he's calming even more, so I'll come towards him. Now we'll be able to see a lot more if he gets uncomfortable or not, because he'll stand up. He's showing different warning signs. A little bit of tail wag. Might put my hand down low, see if he comes towards it, but I'm not, no pressure on him per se. You could reinforce him now. Good boy. 2, 3, yeah, that's it. That's all right, just let him process. And then I'll move away. We'll let him process again. Give him 5 seconds, then reinforce him again. That's it. So we're being very precise with what behaviours are wanted from him. We're clarifying that constantly, going, these are the behaviours we want from you, this calm sitting. So he's like, oh, this is how I can get access to reinforcement. And then we're punishing the behaviour of him growling and barking at us by not moving away. If he sits again, we'd just give him like a 5-second count and then reinforce him again. And then what you have eventually is a dog that when he gets nervous, he'll show warnings. He'll sit as a warning sign. So someone will walk towards him and then he'll sit and be like, oh, I'm nervous. And you'll be like, oh, just give him like 10, let him come up to you. And then you'd know once he comes out of that sit that he's comfortable with the person. So we're teaching him appropriate skills to communicate how he's feeling versus the growl. We're like, you don't have to communicate that way, you can communicate this way. It would just be, it's just the repetition of him not exercising that behavior and getting an outcome, because that will generalize the behavior. So he'll realize that that behavior there, that growling is, and barking is what he needs to do to get things to, the environment to change. So we don't ever want people to walk away from him when he's like that. So you have to be quite, like put him in quite controlled scenarios. If you got yourself in a situation where it wasn't like, you had to walk away, that's okay. Like you could just create space from the person, but then, so I wouldn't just completely leave the environment though. So say like, say over where that truck is was a person, say he approached, he had that reaction, you could take him away. It wouldn't be ideal, but it would like prevent it from maybe getting worse, and then you would come back. So you'd overcome that fear. So it would be like, say a spider appeared, you freaked out and you ran away, but then we were like, no, you need to come back and have a look at this, like it's okay. And then you came and overcame the fear, that reaction wouldn't be have as big of an effect on the training. Whereas if you didn't come back, then that may be where you start to see things get worse. When he's in that state, popping on the leash is not going to help. It's just going to shut it off, and then he's going to go into that avoidance where he's sniffing the ground, and then he just does it. He becomes more, he'll become more unpredictable. So you'll find he'll just randomly turn on, then turn off, randomly turn on, turn off. And this sniffing's just processing time. And the next step will be, so from here would be like giving the person the leash, so the other individual, and then getting them to interact with the dog, but he's on leash with them. And that's where he'll overcome the fear with them. And the more he does this with people, the more he'll then be like, oh, okay, they're going to be respectful of the introduction, and then at the right time, once I'm able to process, I'm not so worried about them, then I actually give the person the leash, and I get like a positive interaction with that person. And this is where the bigger learning will happen, I guess. Like he's now going, I was scared of that thing, and now he's giving me affection. Like over time, he'll generalize it. It depends. Depends how smart he is, like how quickly he picks up patterns, and he is a smart dog, and then also how consistent we are. But if he ever gets pushed like over threshold, like someone say ran at you, say with like something in their arm waving, it might reverse him back a little bit. It'll be like being a smoker. Say you were smoking a pack of cigarettes a day for say a year, and then you quit for 2 months, and then like you came and hung out with a group of guys, went away on holiday for 4 days, and they were all smoking cigarettes. By day 3, you'll probably be like, oh, screw it, have a cigarette, and then you're back to smoking again. So it would just be like, if you put him in an environment where he gets overwhelmed and it gets dealt with inappropriately, that's where the reaction may come back. But you definitely be quite gentle on the leash. He's quite sensitive to the leash. And it can just be that it can just be the timing of when the leash comes on. It could be like just when you're in a situation where something gets overwhelming and you need to pull him away or something, you just do something out of reflex. Those kind of things we want to be quite aware of. That's where the training can get broken. So like we'll have a little look at the leash training, eh? So I'd be quite gentle like this with the leash. So I give him time to process.